now let's sort of talk to our special guests about, of course, SideQuest. This is Shane and Orla Harris, creators of SideQuest. And I think most of our viewers and listeners will know what SideQuest is, but to sort of briefly recap, it's a platform which gives Oculus Quest owners the option to easily sideload third-party apps and content that isn't available on the official Oculus store. So you've got games like Crisis Brigade, Pavlov, which Rowdy mentioned earlier, and Hyperdash, which is one of my personal favorites, are some great examples of amazing VR experiences that can only be available through SideQuest right now. So maybe Shane, Orla, you could start with the beginning. Like, how did you first get into VR before SideQuest was even like a concept in your mind?
Ooh, you know what? I actually really enjoy listening to Orla tell this story. So I'll let her go ahead. I feel like I've listened to enough of the sound of my own voice. But,
sure.
I'll let her go ahead and tell you the origin story.
Yeah. Basically, Shane was working in a different company and they were experimenting with a lot of hardware. And he came home one day and he said, I'm going to buy some VR equipment. And it kind of just escalated from there. I done some damage to our bank account, I think, for about a year. I think we had every single headset that could possibly exist. There's a whole attic full of them. So for me, I got into it by proxy. Shane was having a bit of a hard time convincing me. But then he put Google Earth in, I think it was the Vive at the time. We had the Vive in one room and we had the Rift in another. And he put in the Vive, and 4 hours later he came back and I was like crawling about on the bedroom floor. I was like, I think I went everywhere you could possibly go. So yeah, that for me was like the aha moment. And I really felt like there was a future in it. But for me, that was the moment for me personally. And then I guess just from there, like with Shane, it just kept getting better and better. And then he obviously started building his own social platform, which you guys may know of. It's now called SideQuest Legends, a different name back in the day. But that's what we pitched to Oculus. And it was rejected for the Quest store.
Best thing that ever happened.
Yeah. Thank you. And essentially, off the back of that, Shane, being the genius that he is, he found a workaround just by way of us trying to share our game and just trying to get feedback. And that again just escalated, and lots of other developers got involved, and the community started to build around these games. And fast forward 6 months, there was like 200,000 monthly active users on SideQuest, and mind's blown. Like, we were blown away by that. We've both been full time now with this for easily about 8 or 9 months now, and things are good. Things are getting stronger and stronger.
Amazing.
That's an awesome story.
What a rejection can do, right?
Yeah, keep rejecting us like that.
I mean, let's be honest. I'd say they probably regret that decision, and if they could take that back and we didn't exist, that would probably make a lot more sense for them. But I think it's amazing, and I love hearing stories like Rowdy's, where people say that they got it going quickly, because there's a lot of steps in the process that are outside of our control. There's a lot of risk there, undue risk. And it makes me really excited about the recent announcement from Facebook, that they're going to make things easier. Because that's going to be great for pretty much everybody in the industry and the industry itself. So we're really excited that they've managed to finally see the value in what we're doing. And we hope that a lot of the things that they're going to open up to more developers, these are the kind of things I've been lobbying with them, since the early days of SideQuest, to try to get them involved and get them integrating with us so that we could, spread the wealth and everybody could get a bit of a benefit of it. So, it took a while to sort of, get talking to Oculus, get talking to Facebook, and initially for them to take us seriously, which is understandable. But now we have this great relationship with them, and we talk to them. We give them a heads up of what we're planning. They give us a heads up of what they're planning, so that there's no surprises, and that obviously there's a hiccup every now and again. You can never really get away from that. But it's great. It's really great. I'm delighted with how they've embraced what we're doing. And
That's good to hear, actually, because I mean, I didn't expect that. I know I'm not the only one. That there was a good relationship between Oculus and SideQuest, but I think it's great to hear that. And also, I think you hit the nail on the head with saying like how easy it is, because now I saw there's also a beta version of it being wireless, to be able to wireless connect your Oculus Quest. I think, the easier you make these kind of steps, the more people you will probably draw into, like especially if you have things like Pavlov and Contractors, which have huge fan bases that can also enjoy a game like that on the Quest.
So your relationship got better when you started showing like, okay, these are the amount of users we have, or was it already before that? Because of course
we had an active dialogue with Oculus before OC6. We were talking to them about what was going on there, and I was in communication with Chris Pruitt, and yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, including us for that matter, were surprised by the volume of traffic that we had. This is probably the largest scale thing I've ever done, so I don't know if I have a huge amount. I've worked with startups for a number of years, so we've prototyped and built out a lot of product, but we've never really got it to the scale that SideQuest has been at. So I really would have expected that I would have been more run off my feet in terms of support of the 5 or 6 step process of connecting it to your PC and so forth. But when we hooked up Google Analytics mid-November, that's how long after we launched SideQuest 2 days after the Quest released, and I didn't have Google Analytics in until mid-November, and we just couldn't believe it. And we were on this run up to Christmas. Everything was just continuing to increase, and it was just reassuring overall, really. I think just to see that this device was driving that much interest within a niche that is the niche of standalone VR. So we were really excited, and I guess Oculus, they must have seen the same thing. They must see that the users who engage with SideQuest engage with the rest of the content on the platform, and the sheer volume of them makes it so that obviously there's a segment there that we need to protect, and they need to have that ideal first time.
And maybe it's a great way for them also to kind of gauge interest of if there's a particular interest from a lot of users in a particular game, it might be interesting for them to then contact that developer in order to see if something can be worked out for the Oculus Quest platform itself.
That's an interesting point, actually. Have you seen that kind of transition? So like a game that's been popular on SideQuest, have you seen it transition to the official store, like that way around?
A few times.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Nice.
And
okay.
Vice versa, in fact.
Right.
So
games that were on the official store that then transitioned to SideQuest.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That's like Virtual Desktop, for example. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, Virtual Desktop. There's also Ninja Legends. So they've got a demo on SideQuest released on the official store. There's some other people who are thinking about possibly doing the same. Then we've got a few titles that are confirmed to the store but just haven't reached the release yet, that are already on SideQuest, like Pavlov and Hyperdash. Some really amazing titles.
That's actually a great point that you make. Is there because you can't download the demo, I believe, on the Oculus store, right?
There's a couple of demos.
There are? Okay, no, never mind. I thought that would be a link between that, maybe.
It's insane to hear this. You first of all fill up such a huge gap, because I remember us talking on the podcast, we were super worried about developers getting denied and there was no place to go to. Yeah. Then of course SideQuest popped up. We weren't surprised because a new kind of Oculus share would have happened at some point, but it becomes so big that you kind of stand toe to toe with the actual official store, and some of the developers who have an official game on there come your way. Well, first I was always like, okay, everything that doesn't pop up on the Oculus store is just going to go to SideQuest and that's it. But it just shows that it's so popular now that it's almost like we're talking about Steam and Epic Games. That's kind of what we're talking about.
It's impossible to ignore it. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
And do you have an idea in terms of metrics, sort of numbers of Quest users that are using SideQuest right now?
I don't think. Yeah, we're still sort of just over sort of 300,000, I think, monthly active users currently. I think when lockdown started to end, we saw a slight dip, but things have actually been increasing significantly lately too. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest milestone recently, apart from the titles that release, they didn't tend to drive a lot of interest. But the biggest milestone recently was actually the Facebook announcement, and that could be in part of the fact that they also announced they were sunsetting the Go. That could have just had an inadvertent effect of driving a lot more people towards the Quest rather than the Go, and obviously indirectly to SideQuest as well. But yeah, I mean, things continue to increase, and we haven't put much in the way of resources behind any of that. We probably given away about 10 quests over the last 12 months on our Discord server, but that's about as much as we've spent on marketing and promotion.
Yeah, because like those 300,000 people that come to your platform every month, how did they find SideQuest in the first place? Where are they coming from? Is it like mouth-to-mouth advertisement? Someone's like, hey, I just played some free games, it's amazing, and it's how did those people end up there?
Sure.
It's quite incredible to watch it happen. I'm in about 30 different Facebook groups, and every single day, I check everything religiously, but you have people go in there and they're just playing games, and people say, what's this? And now there's 20 people engaged in a conversation going, it's on SideQuest, and oh, I need to go get that. How do I get that? Where do I go? Can somebody help me? And it's just consistent, like every day. And yeah, it's word of mouth, it really is. It just spirals.
It's such a great name for the app as well. It kind of combines like you hear from the name immediately what it's doing. I think it's a great choice for it.
Yeah, and I guess
it's so powerful. It's so powerful that you don't it's so useful, and it's such a good platform that you don't even necessarily need to advertise it, because it just works. It just goes with the flow.
Yeah.
But I imagine people like online, like me, other content creators out there making videos as well. Like, when I made a Hyperdash video, like people were like, hey, what is this game? I've never seen it before. And then like you say, oh, it's only available on SideQuest, and there's a guide here if you want to go check that out. It kind of drives a lot of people over, especially to the Hyperdash Discords and like, the SideQuest Discords as well. So it's really interesting to see that kind of word of mouth kind of spreads this word out and has grown such a huge community. To the point where I think you recently, was it 1 million downloads surpassed?
Yes.
Which is an insane number. And I can imagine, like, when you first started this off, like you said, you had this kind of social application that you had built, which got rejected from the store, and you wanted to distribute it in some way. And that was called The Expanse, right, back then?
That's right, yeah.
Is it still on SideQuest?
Yeah, it is. It's called SideQuest Legends at the minute, yeah. It hasn't had any love for a while. I hope to get back to it soon, but obviously SideQuest as it is right now is a going concern, so we need to put all the energy we can into it.
Yeah, and it must be quite amazing to see that kind of response from the community when you started it, and then all of a sudden, bang, you've got like 1 million downloads, all these active users. Like, how do you deal with that overnight, building that kind of support network? Because like you say, it's just the two of you, right?
Hang on for dear life, I think. It's at this stage where we don't really, the community is in the driving seat here.
Right.
And we're just privileged to be the ones who get to, have a bit of say here. But, involving the community, embracing the developers and embracing the streamers and trying to work with as much and because we all stand to benefit. We all stand to benefit to some degree. The developers, they want more exposure. The streamers want more content. So, I think what's great about what we do is how we leverage that kind of discovery. And I mean that's kind of why you've got titles that are on the main store that are coming to SideQuest, is because the opportunity there for discovery. It's just a secondary channel. It's not the main store, but they have a huge amount of opportunity there to be able to engage with their audience. And, Hyperdash is a great example, because that was a really, really popular title, and it's titles like that really elevate SideQuest, like most platforms. It's those few killer titles that really become the ones that sort of, that really keep us afloat. But also at the same time, a huge big release for Hyperdash, their daily active users went 10x after they released on SideQuest. And to hear something like that is great, to be able to help them. They were already well on the road to kickstarting their community. I won't say that we did that for them, but to be able to help them at this stage and be able to give them that extra boost really feels like we're doing something good here, and we're helping with something we're passionate about.
It's interesting because like the lineup is so strong that, as I said before, you can compete easily with other platforms, and like the games that were first denied by Facebook, by Oculus, it wasn't shovelware we were talking about. It was like we had some proper developers, very well known in the scene for years, that got denied. And then you see, Hyperdash, for example, pop up, and they have no other place to go. So you're ending up with titles that are real good, real proper, that could have ended up somewhere else. And yeah, that's like an effect ball that just keeps rolling and rolling and goes faster. And then now sometimes you see, like, first I saw SideQuest, like, yeah, well, you got some indie titles that is like super new, but now someone's like, what this game is on SideQuest? And it's like a famous name. So you're, actually have so much leverage now that you can just have developers, they just come by themselves to your platform. I think it's amazing.
And like you say, the setup process still to this point is a little bit, you've got a few tasks that you need to do, and you need to sign up as a developer on the Oculus dashboard, which I know Nathy, historically has been vocal about, like, not wanting to do something like that because, the potential repercussions involved, maybe you don't want to get your Oculus account banned or anything like that. So that's always been a concern. But how have you sort of like negated that worry from the community to say, like, don't worry, this is safe? And have you had to implement any curation process of your own to any submissions that may have been like malicious or sort of, pirated material, for example, and stuff like that? How do you deal with all those problems?
Well, I mean,
I think that's an Orla question. Sorry.
Part of my role is every single day I'm checking all the apps that are being submitted to SideQuest. Right. And essentially I put every single one of them on my headset and I play it for a bit and I just check that it's kosher. And there are times when I have to go back and I have to say, look, I don't believe that this is your work. Can you confirm that you're the developer? And more often than not, in those cases, the person just says, yeah, I just thought I chanced my arm here. I pulled it from here, I pulled it from there, or I'm on this private beta. I'm on this private beta and they gave it to me so I can put it here. And I'm like, no, the developer should put it there themselves. And so we have to keep a real finger on the pulse as well to know what is out there, maybe via Reddit or other Discord, so that someone doesn't accidentally submit something that isn't their work. And most of the time it's fine. So
Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft gets submitted about 100 times a week.
Wow. I made this.
So you're like
Minecraft.
So developers, that's how I see it. Like, developers come into this courtroom where you're sitting and you're testing it out, and it's like, but it's hard because I'm sure sometimes something slips because, like, after a while, it's like, of course you played so much, so you can see what are assets that have been copied, but I'm sure there's always something that you're like, oh, oops, later on where. I don't know.
It's generally, I think I've been okay. Usually if I'm not sure, I'll ask Shane, because if it looks like too good to be true, I'm usually like, is this a thing? Is this like a PCVR or whatever? And normally,
Asgard's Wrath, like.
Normally the people who are doing it kind of slip up, and you can usually tell that they're children, because rather than just have a title, they'll have like Asgard's Wrath, Quest, Port, VR, you can just kind of tell it's not the real thing. But I love my job.
So have you yet had a Unity project put together with a little pop-up that just says, "Hi, Orla"? No?
No, not yet. I'd love one though.
We got one that was close the other day. A guy submitted a game that is just a red cube.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And because, we're obviously an open platform, we'll allow it. We tested it, and indeed it fit the bill. It was a red cube.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of got a little bit of that Reddit mentality whenever people hit the reviews, because I wouldn't trust the reviews on that game, shall we say. They're all way too
I'm going to have to download this now. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
It's a meditative experience.
I was going to say, there was, like when the iPhone and the Apple Store first launched, there was a red gem you could get for, I think it was $10,000 or something ridiculous, or $500, and you could buy it, and all it did was you could go to your friends and show this picture of a gem on your phone, and that was it. And they had to pull it down after it got a few sales. I can't remember how much, but
oh my God.
They had to kill it. But yeah, it sounds like
it.
that. It sounds like someone took some inspiration from Apple.
Obviously, at this point, you're both working on this full time. You know, like Orla, you're testing out the apps. I take it, Shane, you're like building the the actual site itself and the app. So how long have you been full time on this, and how do you sort of monetize it? Because from what I understand is there are paid apps on the platform, but you don't take any cut from that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I basically started working on it full time around mid-November, but at the same time as Orla. Before that, it was just a side project, really. It was just something I kind of worked on in the evenings and weekends. Realistically, I don't think we're quite sure exactly on the specifics of our business model yet, and we're still kind of working that out. But I think what's important to us is that we offer this facility for developers to be able to get access to discovery and community, and I think that's really important. One thing that we have been playing with most recently, and you may have heard some of our announcement recently around this, but we're focusing on trying to add as much value during the early stages when users are play testing games. Whenever we first added the review feature to SideQuest, it just took off. Users are eager to engage and give feedback and give information back to these developers. So we've been talking for a while about SideQuest becoming the kind of test flight of virtual reality, where we start to build out tools that users can leverage to add more value to what they're doing when they're playtesting this early access kind of content, and to be able to then possibly even earn rewards for that engagement. So right now we're sort of I think our plan over the next short while is to continue to engage with our developer community as we have, continue to try and gather feedback and try and gather the most essential needs that they have. But we're interested in focusing on building out some developer tools. It's like you said, Rowdy. There's so much more that SideQuest does, and that's because it is also a developer tool and has been from the start. That's why we first built it. Was just a developer tool for us to deploy our app, and most of the extra features that you've got in it now are additional developer tools allowing you to manage the device. So.
That's super smart, because I don't know if you remember, there used to be a similar platform in the past called Fishbowl, and they would basically pay people to basically review their games in production and give critical feedback on bugs or features that they think should be implemented in it. And certainly a lot of content creators around the time, including myself, it was a good way to learn how to give critical feedback in VR games, and also earn a little bit of money as well if you're just starting a channel. So I think that's a really amazing feature, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that's implemented in the future for sure.
Yeah, us too. For sure.
I've got a bizarre side question. I know you said you're living there in Ireland.
Side question?
A side question. Did I actually say that? That's funny. That wasn't even intentional. I like how Rowdy's gone red now. I'm curious, like the lovely Irish weather, has that ever resulted in like progress on the app, or the site? Like, have you ever been driven indoors and then gone, and then have like a great thought, or spent some hours, behind the desk working away at it? I'm just curious.
I think in order to be driven indoors, you have to go outdoors first, and we don't do an awful lot of that, to be honest.
I've been self-isolating for years.
Good man. Good on you both. Good on you both.
To be honest, I worry. I mean, like, today was the first sunny day in 3 months, and I kind of wanted to go out into the garden, but then I kind of didn't, so it was okay.
Struggles.
You're right here at home. You're right here at home. We're all very like that.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've got this huge community that are super passionate about SideQuest, and rightly so. And do you think you have like any idea in terms of like percentages, in terms of like Quest users that are actually using the app as opposed to not using the app? Like, do you have any metrics or ideas what that number might be?
Well, so I mean, we've only really got access to what's public, and what the likes of Super Data tends to come out with, which has often been wildly wrong in the past.
Yes.
And a lot of people are very critical of that. I think as it stands right now, we probably still have in and around about 25 to 30% of the Quest user base on SideQuest.
Wow.
But I think what we're going to be looking at is a significant segment of users will be opened up to SideQuest when the onboarding process becomes easier, because what we're looking at is when we could directly integrate with this direct linking system that Oculus are talking about delivering. Then SideQuest can load up inside your headset, inside your web browser. No desktop, no PC required, no 6-step onboarding process. So for users to get engaged with it, it's just a matter of entering the web address into the browser, and away you go. So we're really excited about that and how much that's going to increase, and hopefully we can be prepared for the volume of traffic that's going to bring to us. But right now, because of obviously the complication with getting involved, I think there is a certain ceiling there that we're not going to get past until that process becomes easier. I'm actually surprised that we've managed to convince so many people to go down that road, because one thing we found, I've been in VR for a number of years, and the kind of early adopter that's involved in VR, but one thing I think we've seen a lot over the last year is how much it's swayed towards the mass consumer.
Definitely, yeah.
We see that in the level of technical knowledge that they have when they come for support with SideQuest, and there's a lot more people outside of the VR industry who've been brought in by this headset, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that's great news. Talking about the mass consumer market, if there are questions from the chat, then feel free to ping us, and then we'll answer them later on as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And maybe we should touch on that a little bit more, because what Shane was saying was Oculus announced during a blog post in June that they're going to enable developers to share their apps to anyone with a Quest without having to be accepted onto the Oculus Store and without the need for side loading. And a lot of people from the community had questions as to how this will affect SideQuest going forward. And how do you obviously feel about feel that this is a positive thing, and that SideQuest will still be around and be harmonious with whatever system Oculus are creating, and you just think, in your opinion, this is just going to streamline and make things easier for your community, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Oculus have done is very smart. They've managed to have the best of both worlds, where they can still maintain their store curation, and they can continue to have that center of excellence that is the Oculus Store. But at the same time, they can also take advantage of this growing indie space as well. One thing that it was always brought up in our discussions with Oculus to date was how we could maybe leverage more of the Oculus platform for side-loaded apps. To some degree, they've been out in the cold. We're aware of the fact that To the Top doesn't have multiplayer, and there's a reason for that, and it's because they can't access the same facility as some of the apps in the store. So I mean, we're excited to be able to see developers have more options, have smoother user flows when it comes to purchasing or being able to manage future updates to apps. Ultimately, we're not interested, and we've maintained this from day one in SideQuest, is that we're not interested in competing with Oculus or competing with that main store experience. We're much more interested in building out this early access layer that developers come to sort of prove out their concept and to engage with their community as a stepping stone to going to the main store.
Yeah, so I think that's a great strategy to do that, indeed.
Have you ever thought about hosting game jams? Like VR game jams, and like some kind of it's almost like a flight, like you'd have a subsection or something on the tool, because I see a lot of interesting ideas in VR come from very small projects that are kicked off in a number of hours or days.
Absolutely.
Now you mention it, we do actually have one coming up later this year. We're just still ironing out the details.
Yes.
Excellent.
But it'll be specifically for the Quest, and we're pretty excited about partnering with some organizations on that.
That's awesome.
We're excited to hopefully get involved with the Global Game Jam coming up in January 2021. We caught the tail end of that this year. There were some fantastic Quest submissions, and I just hope that there'll be even more next year now, given the popularity of the device.
That's great news. I'm a huge indie buff, and I always go to the SideQuest. Like when the hand tracking stuff dropped, within a week, right, we had like actual valuable apps that you could go toy with this solution. We still don't have really anything other than the Guardian system, with the hand tracking from Oculus as an official title to go and toy
Elixir.
with.
But
okay,
yeah, you're right.
Fair enough. Yeah. And unfortunately, Elixir doesn't have, I think, enough attention. It's a great little app, especially you got cousins or someone to show the headset off to. It's a great demonstration. But I love that first out of the gates, the indie stuff, people can chew into it and deliver to us players something that we can toy with. And it's great to see that mature as well, like week on week. I'm so glad that you make updating already installed apps so easy. That is a godsend.
But like going back, like the message you have, I think is a great message to send out. We want to serve the industry. We want to make sure that, developers have a place to, have their apps and have a place to go to. But indirectly, you're still competing with the Oculus Store. And I'm sure you don't want to. I get it. You said it. But the thing is, for me, from the start, SideQuest, I was so surprised that they were just so acceptable on your platform. I'm still happy that it's still around by now, and I hope it will continue to be like that. But the thing is, I feel like they're, yes, they are communicating. I don't know what the conversations are. But for me, it feels like, they want to hear from you how your platform works, stuff like that. And in the end, they will just create something themselves. So SideQuest is not really, there is this certain, it was saying with Guy last week, he explained them how virtual desktop works, but he doesn't get the credits for it. So they just
implemented a virtual desktop feature.
Exactly. And that's the same. I'm just scared that they will do the same with SideQuest. It's like, hey, interesting, this, blah, blah, blah. And then in the end, it's like, oh, hey, we got our own branded thing. That's just kind of, I don't know, that's my concern, because I think what you're doing is great and you deserve the best, but it's still, you're talking to a big company who doesn't necessarily care about you personally. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, we're David and they're Goliath in this situation.
I'm sure.
Very much so. Very much.
But I think certainly you've got the community backing behind you, and I think
we're the underdog. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree, I mean, what we could take from is what's happened in the past and how Oculus and Facebook have behaved in the past. They've done this before. There's been Oculus Share, there's been experimental channels on Rift and that kind of thing. I think that at this stage, Oculus actually sees some value in a third party operating this, because the chances are that they're going to engage with the community better. I think that they actually see that it's more valuable to not have Facebook branding all over SideQuest, because the chances are that people are going to get involved in it better. And I honestly think that they're happy for us to handle the discovery in the community of that indie channel. And I think it's exactly like you say. They're a megalithic company that if they wanted, they could just stamp us out of existence tomorrow. But the fact is that they haven't. And rather than stamp us out of existence, they've moved more towards positively engaging with us and publicly acknowledging us.
That's a good point.
They've been down that road before, though. They've done Oculus Share. They did the kind of experimental apps feature, which did not do well on Rift when CV1 was around. It just didn't work. And I think I love hearing your side of the story, because it gives me a lot more faith that they won't just turn around tomorrow, like Nathan said, and send you a harpoon. It makes logical sense, the way you've portrayed it, and why Oculus would prefer that. I know plenty of devs who immediately veered away the second Facebook was mentioned, with the acquisition and all that.
I think the power you have is this community, and it's bad advertisement in the end if they do something that is not in anyone's favor. But
I think so.
It's also the reason I think that recent announcement was such a smart move on their part, because you're right in that there's revenues here that are going away from Oculus. Somebody buys to the top on itch.io. That money is not being spent in their Oculus wallet, or on their Oculus account effectively. And what they're now going to potentially do, we don't have the full details on this. Things are still being worked out, but there may be a possibility that they could actually take advantage of some of that revenue share. And what that's going to provide is a smoother user flow for the users. It's going to drive more sales for the developers, which means that it's going to be the sort of thing that we're going to want to get on board with, and we're going to want to encourage people. So at that point, once again, for the things that matter, we won't be competing with them. We'll be promoting them.
Exactly, and I wanted to touch on that, because, for example, someone like me who's a big fan of games like Pavlov and Contractors, the only way that I can play this game on a Quest is by using something like SideQuest, right? So for me to invest in a device like SideQuest, I'm likely to also get involved into the Oculus store again and get games there. I'm not only going to buy a Quest for only playing that particular game, but eventually you're going to also be trying out things in the Oculus store. So it's a little bit like a win-win situation there, that you get, you know, the apps on the SideQuest where you maybe bought the entire device for, but then in the end, you're also eventually going to get invested into the Oculus store, which is what Oculus basically wants.
Yeah.
So I've got some questions from the community, but before I jump into that, I just got one last question. So with Oculus buying up studios right now, how would you feel if they approached you and just said, look, can we just buy the platform? You know, like you said, instead of like maybe competing with you, let's just buy you up and then you manage our, sort of side distribution platform. Like, how would you feel about something like that?
That's come up quite a few times, as I'm sure you can imagine, since that seems to be the mode that they're in. And recently, I came across an email from Mark Zuckerberg from a number of years ago talking about the future of VR, and at the time they were considering a Unity acquisition. I don't know how this made it out into the public domain, but it was a really interesting read to get an insight into what their mentality is, what the master plan here is, what's driving a lot of their decision making today. And it seems like the general consensus there is that they're trying to think outside of the box. And rather than just being the hardware provider, they want to be the content platform. They want to actually own some of that content so they can ensure its success. Because the key here is that a platform can't just make the platform owner revenue. In order for it to survive, the people who use the platform need to be able to make cash as well. And I think, when they make the announcement like they made earlier in the year about the game sales, one point that they were specific about was how many titles have made over 2 million and how many have made over 1 million. And I think that's a real signal here for the strength of the Oculus platform.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. So let's go for some questions from the community then. So this one's from Jill Hudson on Twitter, and she asks, theoretically, could SideQuest be an app that you could sideload once you want and you install the games from your headset? And I think you touched on this earlier that, with the new process in the future, hypothetically, it would just be a browser link in the in the headset. You go to there and you could download the apps directly from the browser, I guess? Yeah,
so that's also a topic that comes up quite a lot ever since the existence of SideQuest. To date, we didn't really want to kind of bully our way onto the platform directly. This is Oculus's platform. I think we've been very careful to date to not do anything that could prompt them to try to take preventative action against SideQuest. So realistically, and even right now, it's official. It's part of their terms of service. You cannot develop an app and release it on their platform that installs to the headset directly that facilitates the installation of other apps. And rightly so. They're heavily invested in the content. They're obviously subsidizing the hardware, so they're pushing forward there to be able to maximize the kind of revenue that they can get. But and we've even had to, we've had quite a few people who've threatened to build this app and to leverage the SideQuest API. And unfortunately, we've been in the weird position where we've had to take preventative action against that, because we have to act in the interest of all of our developers and in the ecosystem's kind of interest. So, but that being said, we're excited about the potential to be able to operate as just a web-based interface on the headset, because then, we don't encroach on any of these terms of service or Oculus policies, but we still offer that same benefit. So, right now, today, we do have an in-headset solution. You can have SideQuest set up on your desktop, connect it to your headset over Wi-Fi, and then just pop open our website and click install. That will send content to your headset through the browser in the headset. Obviously, it's not what a lot of people would prefer, but it's our way of operating whilst keeping everybody happy and being able to still offer that as a feature.
Okay. The next question comes from Vi the Rye, and this is from Reddit. And they ask, what is your contingency plan for SideQuest if Oculus releases its own distribution platform for unofficial content? I know you welcomed the announcement, but if this promise materializes, it would be in direct competition with the current SideQuest mission. I think you've already covered that pretty much. from some of our previous conversations, so we'll skip that one. And the next one is from Gaming Science Teacher, also on Reddit. It says, what are your estimations on the percentage of Quest owners currently using SideQuest? And I think you also covered that as well.
Yep.
Sort of 25-30%, I think was your estimate.
She thanked as well in chat, who's been watching.
Okay.
She's a good friend of mine, in fact.
That's awesome to hear. It's a lovely VR community. Everyone knows everyone.
They do, don't they? Yeah, it's great.
So maybe we should take some questions from the chat then. I think Rowdy's been sort of collating some of these questions.
Indeed, I've been noting some of them down. First, we had very early in the show, I saw this question pop up. It was from Max Fernandez. He asked, can you please bring back the not safe for work section on SideQuest?
Was that just so Orla can test all the stuff daily? Is that it?
Yeah.
He didn't give a specific reason as to why, but I think we all know.
It's funny. I find it interesting, the difference between how some people behave around this topic. And some people are very, very open about what they want to do, what they want to achieve, and what they want to get out of it. And others are a little bit more reserved. And, we get a lot of DMs about this and about support while we get people set up. And then, of course, it's radio silence after that because they're ready to go. But I've always been a strong supporter of an open system. And basically, I was the last man standing whenever it came to making the final decision that we would not allow not safe for work content on SideQuest anymore. It was 2 days before Christmas that we disabled not safe for work content because somebody made me aware that no matter what measures we put in place to verify age and to put explicit content warnings and whatever else, we were about to get an influx of people from the ages of probably 13 to probably 25, I think is a good estimate of the Quest user base age range. And it meant that unfortunately we were in a difficult position where we were going to possibly expose a lot of people who are underage to this kind of stuff. And that was what changed my mind. And until that moment, I fought with everybody internally and within our community that we would maintain this. I always, we had a lot of people who would come to me and say, get rid of this stuff, you can't do this, maybe with a religious motivation or something like that. But I would always defend them. I thought those guys, they did some amazing things with the technology. To be able to do 6 and 8K video on something like the Oculus Go, that's an impressive thing to do. And just to plug those guys, I'm in no way affiliated, but they have a video player app. It's available now on the Quest store called DOVR, has all the same features as that, obviously without the not safe for work content. And the technology that they're pushing out there is really cutting edge. And I felt like they deserved some support. And that's why I actually had that content on SideQuest months before I even engaged with those guys. I had it on there because people wanted it, not they were controlling it. But of course, they caught up with us and said, hey, so this is why we've seen a 30% increase in sales over the last while.
Just to say, like, Max is now telling the entire chat that it was just a joke. It was just a joke.
Sure. Asking for a friend, I'm sure.
Sure, Max. Sure, Max.
Is it the same story with, because we have on the podcast had this discussion many times before with like these dating simulators that are usually coming from Japan. Is that the same story for you? Like, that's something that you wouldn't distribute on the platform?
I think we would probably align with the Oculus policy in that if there's bare breasts or exposed genitalia, then it's an issue. Okay. But we have an app there called Together VR, which is probably very close to the theme that you're talking about. And from the numbers that we see, it's very popular. It's borderline, but I think where possible, we'd like to err on the side of openness when we can.
That actually brings us nicely to the next question that was asked by Paradise Decay that said, has SideQuest had to reject any titles? I know that you touched briefly on like rejecting things that aren't owned by the actual submitter, but are there like specific titles that you also just flat out reject? What is your kind of like guideline on doing so?
Not really. I mean, like I say, I'll install the app and I'll play test it for a few minutes. If it's broken, if it's just not working, then I know that the users are going to have that experience, and the developers possibly opened a rake of negative reviews. I'll just tell the developer, look, you're not ready yet. You need to go away and fix this, or it's black screen, or this controller isn't working. And usually it's a simple thing. They'll go, oh right. And then they'll go off and fix it and come back. But generally speaking, most things get on there if they don't break the rules.
We need someone like you for every platform, for Oculus Home and for Steam. Like you're like the protector of the people.
Yeah.
Gatekeeper.
I'm maybe too protective.
Fedora VR.
And then a final question that I spotted was from the D1360 VR. He said, social PC VR app Anyland tried to pass the Quest version, was not approved. And I was wondering if you have contacted Anyland dev or if they contacted you. That would be one of the greatest social VR apps on SideQuest. Heard of it?
Yes, yeah, I've heard of it. I've played it, in fact. I have a tendency, to kind of frequent the social VR. I've got a soft spot in my heart there for social VR. I think presence is a huge element that brings to VR games. A lot of the things we've been talking about, like the theater kind of things you were talking about before, Mike. Presence is what really makes that a thing. And you heard it here first, but the person who makes VR Tinder, where you can literally go on a date with somebody, that's going to be huge. That's going to revolutionize things. So
Good point.
Take that to the bank. But I would love. I haven't spoken to the devs of Anyland. I would love to talk to them. If we can help them in any way, I'd be excited to do that. One of the things we've been teasing recently is some new features built into SideQuest, which are going to help with discovery. Now, part of that, just one piece of that, is to try to help developers who want to post updates about events, updates about multiplayer sessions. We've even got an element of that allows the community to also contribute to that, to post content and allow developers to be able to engage with the community. Because I think that's really important. Some of these social games, they kind of live and die by the player base being on there, and you can have a really amazing title. But it requires people, and sometimes the difference of having people or not is just that key element of discovery. So we're really excited to help boost that. There's going to be a sort of a taste of social and multiplayer focus on what we're going to be rolling out soon.
Nice. Awesome.
Right.
Well, we're running on a little bit, so I think we're going to have to wrap it up. But is there any sort of like a sort of brief sort of update you can give in terms of like the roadmap for the future? You said, obviously you've got this streamlined process coming from Oculus. You've got this kind of like paid app testing thing, that you want to run as well. So get feedback from the community for devs. Any other killer sort of features that you're working on that you want to share with us?
I think, I don't think we have any specific news to announce at this point. We've got lots of great ideas. We're in the process of fundraising right now, and what we'd really like to do is to grow a team and start to prototype. So over the next 6 months, we're going to be testing the water with quite a few different bits and pieces, I think. So there's going to be some exciting stuff, but a lot of it's still conceptual now. So I don't want to tease something too early and then it never actually sees the light of day. But I think just keep on trucking, keep on trying to encourage developers to get involved in VR as much as we can. Working with, as Orla mentioned before, game jams and stuff like that, and really trying to get access to the next generation of AAA is the current generation of indie, right? So that's what we're excited to engage with anybody who's interested in taking a leap on virtual reality.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
I'd also like to just give a very special shout out to our moderators on our Discord who honestly do so much for the community. And we couldn't do it without them. So I just want to say thanks to those guys.
Nice. Well, thank you both for being on the show, and also thank you from us and, of course, the VR community as well for working so hard on the SideQuest platform and making it even possible, because certainly for us, it's filled the gaps in between like major releases on the Oculus platform and provided us with some amazing gaming experiences like Pavlov, Hyperdash, and the rest of them, and like VR Crisis Brigade, one of my other favorite games on SideQuest. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for making that all possible.
Absolutely
Thank you.
delighted to come
Thanks
on the
for
show,
having
guys.
us.